Shalonda Treasure Williams. So welcome video with everyone you know. It's gonna be others. Let me just share this with my people. Started. Yes, it's working. Facebook. Here we go. We are live. Awesome. So I'm doing an inner healing series on YouTube. And the first video we're doing today is about unmasking. And Treasure has written an amazing book called Nah, I'm Not Okay. Excuse Me While I Unmask. So she's the perfect person to inspire us and teach us, tell us more about what unmasking is, why it is the first step to inner healing, and how we can successfully unmask ourselves. But just to get to know this woman of God a bit more, I just have some fun questions to ask her. So, my first question is, what's your favorite food?
My favorite food is a little bit confusing for most people because it's also a fruit. So my favorite food is watermelon. That's across the board. I mean, I like other things. I have a second favorite, but that is the ultimate favorite food for me.
And once COVID is over, where would you love to travel in the world?
Once COVID is over, I need some place that is super, super sunny and full of good food. And you know what's so strange? I may People may be like, "Oh, you can go to Jacksonville at any time," but man, Jacksonville has some of the best food ever. So I don't know, maybe just Jacksonville to get some good food and sunshine.
Yes! And if you could meet two celebrities in the world and spend a weekend with them, who would you choose?
Oh man, Tony Robbins, and gosh, that's a hard one because it's like so many people who just rush to my mind. But Tony Robbins definitely would be first, and dang, somebody with great wisdom. So I don't know, maybe just like somebody really old,
Yeah.
Cicely Tyson, maybe something like that.
Oh, yes. That is so amazing. So thank you for that. My first question is, what does unmasking actually mean?
So unmasking, it really is not like as complicated as some people may think it is. It really is basic. When you think about a mask, you think about the thing that covers your face to hide you from something. The first thing we think about is like a masquerade, right? A masquerade ball where you're not recognized. And so unmasking would simply be, taking off the things that hide you, taking off the things that suffocate you, taking off the things that deceive, because when we have masks on, most of the time we wear them to throw people off. You know what I mean? We wear masks to make people not realize what's really beneath or what's really in you. And so unmasking would simply be taking off the falsehood, or the pretend, right? Just taking it all off.
Wow. And what's your personal personal experience with unmasking?
My unmasking has really been a life journey, right? So many people who read the book, I go literally almost chronologically in age. I start from 6 years old up to like adulthood, with the many things that I wish I would have took off back then, right? The things that I wish I would have said to God when I was 6 years old, but didn't really know how. The things that I wish that I didn't hold until I was an adult before I actually accepted the truth of the matter. Um, and so my own experience with unmasking would be that it's been a lifetime journey. And some people will say, "Hey, well, I was good after the first, couple of weeks of dealing with myself," but I haven't been. I think bits and pieces of me matured and grow throughout time as God, you know, started taking my layers off. But there are still things that you deal with every day. Like for instance, I deal with unmasking now. I practice what I teach you guys, right? So I can really be in this season. I'm extremely hurt by some of the things that are happening concerning me, and so I could hold it in and pretend like it doesn't bother me for me to be under such an attack as a woman of God. But it really hurts. It really bothers me. And so some people will say, "Well, you can't tell. Don't be so transparent. Don't be so vulnerable. Don't tell everything. Don't let the devil see you sweat," type of stuff, right? But for me, it's not about letting him see me sweat, right? It's about me being honest enough to when 5 years from now, 10 years from now comes, I can see those same individuals and still be able to feed them if they're hungry because I've let it go. I've healed. I let it go in that moment. I'm not holding on to the fact that I'm hurt. I'm just hurt. And tomorrow I may be fine, but today I'm hurt. And so when we can deal with those things and begin to take the mask off as they get put on, because somebody will want me to put on the mask if I don't care, or, I'm so spiritual that nothing bothers me, right? Um, but that doesn't make me spiritual, to pretend like nothing bothers me when God made me human. So I have to be able to release it, let it go, take the mask off as they come, so that 10 years from now, I'm not peeling off layers and almost taking my skin off because it's so stuck, right? So it's an everyday, all the time situation. But we have to be able to be bold enough and strong enough to accept that truth that I'm hurt, I'm bothered. This, you know, how can I continue to be as loving as I choose to be if I continue to allow the mask? You know what I mean? So a part of what keeps me humble and a part of what keeps my heart open to people is that I just deal with what I'm feeling with at that moment in that time, instead of having to go through 20 years of therapy just to be able to say, "I'm hurt." It hurt me. It bothered me. It messed me up. And so a lot of people, even myself, I think it could have happened to me too if I allowed it to. But we get to this place where we put on all these different facades, right? And it's what I call phony. And some people are like, "I'm not phony. I'm just, I just ain't dealing with people." No, it's being phony because at the core of you, you're love. At the core of you, you're created to love. That's who we are. And so when you put on these different masks, the mask of "I ain't never letting nobody get me. I'm gonna get you before you get me." All those things are masks, because the truth is that your heart is big as all outside. Somebody hurt you, and so now you want to wear protective gear. Truth. Now, does that mean that you don't guard your heart, or you don't, use discernment or watch? That doesn't mean that. It just means that you don't put on a "I don't care" mask when you really do care. You just been hurt in the process.
Wow, this is so good already. So, why is it that people wear masks, and how can we tell if we're wearing one?
Well, first of all, let me answer that part, the second part first. I think that one of the ways that you know that you're wearing a mask is if you take inventory of how you're feeling and you realize that that is the total opposite of who you are. Like for instance, and some people we've deceived ourselves for so long that we really feel like these people, right? We feel like we so hard, or we feel like we can't love, or we feel like we just the meanest person in the world, right? But when you're sitting at home with yourself and you're really muttering over in your mind how that last situation or that last conversation made you feel on the inside of yourself, and then you picture how you're displaying yourself to the outside world, then you can realize that you're wearing a mask right in that moment. If what you display to the outside world is the opposite of what you feel when you're in your private time, then you have a mask on. If you even if the mask is I'm so happy every day, but inside you're angry, right? At this moment, you're angry, but you have on the, oh, I'm so happy mask, right? Sometimes you have to take the mask off in order to deal with the anger and then learn to truly be happy. See, when you learn how to be something, then you're not masking. You're not pretending. You're not being phony. You're literally learning how to be that. You're applying it to your life. You're becoming better as you go along, right? But if you are angry and you have on a I'm so happy mask, and you go home and you sit with yourself and you're fuming on the inside and you're contemplating in your head what you want to say to this person, how you want to handle the situation, then you, my dear, are wearing a mask. And so if you just take the reality, take how you present yourself to the people at work and what you feel like when you go home. If how you present yourself to them and what you feel like at home is different, then you're probably wearing a mask. And so the first part of your question was, how do we get masks? And the truth is we get them because of what we've been taught, because of how life has taught us, or how grandma and them taught you, or how the pastor and them from your childhood church taught you, right? You learn how to put on a facade. I'm all for affirmations. I'm all for positive thinking. I'm all for optimism and building yourself to be a positive person. But all of these things come with time. You grow, you learn and you apply. You learn and you apply, and you learn and you apply. This is called maturity, right? That's maturity. It's a difference between maturing and growing and actually just putting on a front forever. In other words, they taught you to fake it till you make it. Well, I don't want to fake it till I make it. Faking it until I make it got me crying at night when nobody else is around. Faking it until I make it has me drugging and being drunkard and trying to ease the pain. Because really what I want to do is scream. What I want to do is cry. What I want to do is spaz out because the world is not handing me what I think I'm supposed to have. And so you're telling me to fake it till I make it. You're telling me to wear a mask. Really? You're telling me to be phony when God hates lies? You're telling me to lie. And so one of the scenarios, and I think I shared this before, but if somebody walks in the room and their bone is sticking out their leg, is it broke or not? It's broke. But if you walk in the room and you say, "Oh, my leg ain't broke, I'm healed. I am so healed. I'm so this and I'm so that," that, my dear, is a lie and it's a mask. So when you can acknowledge it and you can say that this is broken, I need to get it repaired. You go get it repaired, and then you say, I still believe and declare that my God is a healer, and this shall be a speedy recovery. No infection. Nothing else is going to come into my body. I am well, right? That's totally different than denying the situation. And so many of us have learned how to deny things. We've learned how to fake it. We've learned how to tell somebody that we're good when we're really not. How you doing today? Oh, girl, I'm blessed and highly favored, girl. Everything in my life is good, because you don't want that person to know your personal business. So you're hiding. It's nothing wrong with not telling them your business, but why lie? There's a difference. How are you doing today? Oh, listen, I believe God. I'm so grateful for life. I ain't tell you not a word of lie and none of that whole statement. But for me to tell you that I'm well when I've been sick for a month and a half is a whole lie. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so we begin to wear masks because somebody told us that we shouldn't, what goes on in this house stays in this house. We learned all these different behaviors from people. And for some reason, they thought that that was going to benefit us. But in actuality, look at the world we live in right now. Look at how many people are breaking free because they've been in bondage for so long because of what somebody told them they had to do and how somebody told them they had to talk. And so when you feel like you're not doing good today, you lie and say that I'm doing well, and then you go home and you suffer. So we got to be able to do better, because if we don't, we're going to suffocate. It's not a matter of if or when. It's not a matter of if, but matter of when. So the longer you have your your face and your breathing space is constricted, then eventually you're going to die in it. And so we got to learn how to take it off.
I hope y'all are taking notes because I'm overwhelmed. This is such amazing information. Thank you so much for everything you're saying. Like, it makes sense. It really makes sense. And I believe everyone who's watching the replay is getting some type of deliverance and a healing, even just listening, because this is so good. I was gonna say what so you mentioned it sounds like actually unmasking requires transparency and vulnerability. How can you give advice to those of us who don't like that? Like, how do we get
Oh
comfortable
my goodness.
being
Who
vulnerable?
does though? That's the thing. Like, who really likes to be exposed? To be open. Nobody really likes that. It is not, it doesn't make you feel safe, especially because of what you've experienced in life. And so I don't disregard the fact that we deal with things and with people who make it hard, right? It's difficult to open up to certain people. It's difficult to share your truth with a person that you know is judgmental. It is difficult to share your truth with somebody who acts like they never have an issue, right? It's difficult. And so what I found for myself is that I have to lead by example, right? So as a certified coach, as an inspirational speaker and an author and all these different things, as a mother, right? As a whole full-time minister, my life has to be example based, right? Does that mean that I always get it right? Absolutely not. But I should be able to share that without feeling like I'm going to be condemned for that, right? So many people are afraid because of the people that they're trying to be vulnerable with. In other words, you betrayed my trust one time, so I'm never going to trust you with this again, right? We expect humans to be God, right? And not even God holds all your secrets. Can I be honest? Somebody said that he never tells my secrets. Uh, I'm a whole prophet. He tell me your secrets. Sometimes he tells your secrets, but it's only to help you to get to a better place. But we expect people to be God and they're not. And so uh, we keep it, we hold it, because we're afraid that Bertha and them is going to be gossiping about it tomorrow, right? We're afraid that if I share this with you, if we end our friendship, or if you're in a relationship with somebody, if we end our relationship, you're going to spread it to the whole world. So I'm not going to tell anybody. We've had hurtful experiences. And so these things cause you to be very guarded. But see, there's a difference between guarding your heart with all diligence and becoming a strong brick wall that can't be penetrated, right? You become this strong wall that can't be penetrated. I mean, you have no doors on it, can't nobody get in and can't nobody get out, right? And that is where most of us are. And I would say, I ain't gonna say for good reason, but I would say for understandable reasons. We have been betrayed. And when you are betrayed, you're afraid of it ever happening again. But here's the truth. See, this is what I mean when I say you have to speak truth, tell yourself the truth. The truth is, sometimes I'm going to be hurt because I'm dealing with other human beings. At some point, I said something that may have hurt another individual. Probably didn't do it intentionally, but it hurt them anyway. I have been in moments where I've been so angry that I finally exploded and may have said something that totally made a person feel bad. Now they feel guarded, and it was just one moment. Some of the things that we're dealing with, some of the things that we are having to live through our lives right now is based on one experience. One experience got you feeling like you're never going to ever be in another relationship, and I'm just going to die an old maid. One heartbreak. One friendship broken made you feel like you can't ever trust another sister to be your friend again. Do you know how many friends, most of my female friends did not do female relationships? And I'm talking about in the sense of friendships. Oh, I don't do chicks. I don't do chicks. I don't do chicks. That was their statement of choice. And so now when they give testimony about our friendship, they can talk about how their thought about friendships with females have been redeemed because they have dealt with so many cackling, trifling, never showing up females that when finally you get one that's not like that, then you can be redeemed. But most of us don't deal with people who have been healed yet. So how can you be vulnerable with people, other people who haven't been healed yet? And so I'm gonna answer that for you. How can you be vulnerable with another person who hasn't been healed? Well, you have to be healed too. Because listen, Rhoda, if anything is the truth, we expect people to be what we're not. I expect you to let me be vulnerable and to hold my secrets. But yet I'm broken. And so because I'm broken, I'm treating people the same way that I'm asking you not to treat me. We got to all get healed. We got to all start from that place. So you don't like to be vulnerable because it's been life experiences that taught you not to be vulnerable. But you find that one place, maybe two, where you can open yourself up and you can be vulnerable and just start there. Nobody's asking you to do what I do and tell the whole world your business. He didn't call you to do that. He didn't call you to tell everything. And when he does, then you obey because you know that it's going to help somebody else's life. Is it tough? Yes. But do you do it? Yes. Because if I can share my truth, somebody else will be bold enough to share their truth. But if you're not going to take the steps it needs to be healed, then you're really just going to be going through a whole little cycle that's going to end up right back where you started in the first place.
Wow, 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 wow. I got you. I feel you. This is so
I know you.
amazing. I feel challenged already. My
I
God.
know you do.
This is so good. Like, wow. Just thank you for everything you're saying. What stood out to me, one of the things that stood out to me is when you said one experience can make you make vows to yourself, right? Like permanent vows. So, like, what are some experiences you've been through that required you to actually unmask? For example, rejection or abuse or
Man, all of that. I've never been physically abused, and I think uh people think that because you've never been physically hit that you've never been abused, and that's not true, you know. I think, and this is going to sound real crazy, and I know I'm going to make a lot of people feel like, oh my God, is it me? But I have to say this so that people will understand. I hear a lot of people talk about what they deal with in ministries and with ministry leaders and how they deal with, you know, certain abuses from their leaders, but I don't think that people often realize that the way they are with their leaders is a form of abuse as well. And so one of the things that, you know, I'm masking right now in this season, like when I go live or when I'm when we're doing We Flow or I'm having conversations with you guys or you know, some people, like I said earlier, they would expect you, oh, just let it go and it's all good and don't worry about it and God's gonna fight your battles. And he does. He fights every battle, but he's instructed me to share certain things. He's instructed me to share when something makes me uncomfortable, when I don't like it, when, you know, spiritual daughters or children or mentees or those sisters and brothers in the Lord who don't understand that you're a human too, right? And so when you're going through, case in point, many of you, and not all of you, but most of you who are close enough to me to check on me know that it's been a month and a half and it's been off and on sickness, just sickness for a whole month and a half. I just been in and out of one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing. Some of you know that there's also spiritual warfare along with that, that there's literally people who are plotting in the spirit realm against me, right? So there's a lot of things that come with that. To unmask about it is tough because my heart wants everybody to be well. So while I'm battling and dealing and going through in my body, and I'm supposed to be resting in my mind, I'm praying for everybody else to be well, even the ones that are not wishing me well. Father, change their heart, do this, help them to be better, blah, 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 all these different things. And to have to share, because I'm an emotional person, right? It's tough to unmask and say, this is what I'm experiencing. This is what I'm going through. This is what my body is going through. This is what, is happening in the spirit realm right now concerning me. This is what I need you guys to do. This is what I don't need you to do. This is how, you know what I mean? It's a whole lot that goes along with it. And so, believe it or not, I don't make light of unmasking. It's just something that I have to choose to practice every day if I'm going to teach it. Make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the abuse of, being a leader, being taken advantage of, not being understood. You know what I mean? Because the truth is, if I could expand myself to be in each and every one of y'all's homes as soon as y'all need me, I would do it. I would quadruple myself. I would, but I can't, because I'm only one individual. And so when the people around you, in the scriptures, it speaks about giving double honor to leaders because they deal with so much. It even tells the parishioners not to be grievous unto their leaders because it's abusive, whether you know it or not, to continue to push and to pull and to beat down one individual. Right. And so to have to unmask about that is really tough because one, I don't want people to feel like that means I don't want you to call on me. I don't want you to ask for prayer. I don't want you to, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is that the more I grow, the more I do ministry, more people are going to come. More people are going to show up. And so does that mean that I don't have time anymore? Does that simply mean that I need to be, balanced? And so when you say certain things, they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to bother her no more. I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to say this. Get healed, because that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it becomes abusive when you're not considerate of how something affects another individual. So when I have to unmask about that, it makes me a little bit emotional.
Oh, that's understandable. That is so understandable. And so, like when we go through hardships, right? Like how you're talking about your struggles being a leader, um, or abusive situations. At what point should you unmask? Like, should you unmask as soon as something traumatizing happens? Like, what's the process?
Yeah, that would all depend. You know what I mean? And the truth be told, I think that we have gone through so many different self-help programs in life that we feel like everything is one size fits all, and it's not. The reason why I started doing one-on-one unmasking sessions with people is because I realized that everybody's circumstance is different. And so for somebody, you don't tell it right away because it's something you know how to process on your own. If you've been taught how to go to God and pray and to journal and to put stuff down and to deal with stuff, then you already know steps. So you may not have to unmask about it. You may not have to tell anybody. You may just simply go through the process within yourself. I coach myself all the time, right? So you may just go through the process yourself in your mind. You may talk to the Lord, ask him to open you up. Father, show me if there's anything that I need to deal with within myself. Am I holding unforgiveness? Am I angry about this situation, right? And then there are some people who need to tell immediately, right? Because you hold anger. And so if you don't tell this thing to your confidant immediately, you're going to do something to hurt yourself or to hurt somebody else. You don't have the luxury of holding it. You don't have the luxury of keeping it inside. You don't have the luxury of isolating. You have to know what works for you. For some people, again, I'm a prophet, so I have a lot of cave time. I have a lot of time where it's just me and God, where I need to tune out outside voices, right? But there are some people who can't deal with isolation. You can't get in because you're going to start, these self-sabotaging behaviors if you stay isolated for too long. No, you need to stay connected to the vine. You need to make regular appointments with your counselor, with your coach. You need to, you know what I mean? Everybody's situation is different, and you gotta, this is a part of it. Knowing who you are and what's your level of tolerance, right? There are some people, Rhoda, who can go through, man, they can take so much, it's crazy. It's a lot of times, especially like the older generation, right? They've learned how to deal with things and still be free and still be happy and still be joyful because they learn not to let stuff bother them after all this time, right? But most people, oh man, they couldn't carry the amount of weight that some people carry. So when you can't carry it, you got to know when it's time to dump. You got to know that you need to dump every day. I need to dump every hour. I need to, when different people come into my life for me to minister to, for me to love on, spiritual children, mentees, whatever, God teaches me their tolerance. God teaches me how to deal with them individually. God teaches me who can handle not talking to me for weeks and who can't, right? And then he teaches me how to deal with each one of them accordingly. There's some of y'all can go a while without reaching out, right? Because you've learned the tools and you know, okay, so I got to do this and I got to do this. But when you get to your point where you cannot anymore, either I pick you up and I'm inboxing you, or you finally reach out and say, hey, I need to talk. I can't take no more, right? And then there are some who, even after the first situation, they're in the inbox or they're messaging or whatever. And then as time goes on, whereas I was hearing from them every hour, eventually they may only need to unmask once a week. It's a process and it's different for every individual.
Understandable. Oh my gosh, this is so good. You mentioned people who go to God and pray and, cast all their cares unto Him. Do you have any advice for those who are even nervous to be vulnerable before God? Like, for example, I
Yeah.
thought I was really transparent before the Father, but then I really wasn't. Like, I
Yeah.
found out I wasn't even like, and in your book, you say the Psalms was David's unmasking. So, can you just like encourage us about unmasking before God?
Yeah, I mean, think about that though. The Psalms were his unmasking. And then that's what I thought about when I started writing that book. I felt like it was my psalm, of because he had such a beautiful relationship with God. And if you look at the dynamics of that relationship, you can see everything that it means to be human in his Psalms, in his conversations with God. And when God said that he's a man after his own heart, it made so much sense, because he was his friend, he was his dad, he was everything to him, and it showed in those conversations. I think a lot of times we attribute God to what we've experienced with people, right? Or, oh, this is a big one. This is a big one. We just don't like God sometimes because of what he don't allow to happen. I mean, or what he allowed to happen. Because sometimes we forget that he gave us power and authority on the earth. So the things that we do make a difference. The decisions that we make a difference, right? He doesn't intervene in everything. He doesn't make everything stop. He doesn't make everything go. Nope. He gave us the power and authority to run these machines called life, right? And so we make God responsible for everything. So if we ain't eating right, if we ain't doing right, and then something happens to our life, your family members blame God for it, right? If we're, driving up the street and the car accidents happen and something happens, a tragedy happens, then we blame God for it. We don't first think that we were off. You know what I mean? The person should have got more sleep before they started driving because they fell asleep at the wheel and it caused the big accident. See, we never look at it from that perspective first. We say, God, why did you allow this? Why did you make this happen? Why did you let this? You know what I mean? And so a lot of times we get angry with him and we don't want to say we're angry because somebody taught us, of course, that you can't question God. You shouldn't question God. You can't be mad at God. You can't be upset. I'm going to feel what I'm feeling. And I'm going to give you an example. My sister died back in February from breast cancer. And she had suffered for 2 years. She knew about it, and it could have been, before then, but for 2 years that she knew about it. And I am not gonna lie to you, I was pissed when her transition happened. I was pissed. Still get angry sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. There's moments when I think about her, when I think about her level of faith, when I think about who she was as an individual, and I get angry. You know what I mean? But I can tell them that. As a matter of fact, a part of the time when I was like really grieving, and I still am grieving for her, but during the time where it was really, really heavy and thick, and when I couldn't, go 1 minute without thinking about it, God asked me, are you still angry with me? And I said yes. And then I went back to sleep. You know what I mean? Like, but it's not from a perspective of, I'm going to curse God and die. It's not that. It's just, this is what I'm feeling. Right. And not until you understand him to be everything, counselor, father, best friend, you know what I mean? Until you learn him to be all those things, you're going to always feel apprehensive about being vulnerable, about opening it all up. And I think sometimes we feel weak, but it's okay to feel weak with him, right? Because only when you reveal and really admit to something can you start the process of healing through it. If you're going to continue to deny that you're angry, what benefit is that going to do for you? How are you going to get from the point of being angry to not being angry anymore if you don't even admit that you are? David had such a rapport and a relationship with God that even when he was dead wrong and God pointed it out to him, he dealt with it and then he moved on. He made more mistakes after that, right? Because he had enough humility to say, okay, God, thank you for correcting me. But then at the same time, he had enough trust in God to say, hey, these enemies at my back, I need you to get them off me. Or God, I'm so down right now. I don't know what to do with myself. He knew who God was to him in his entirety. And I think that's, I'm still growing into knowing him in the entirety, but I think I'm pretty close because I just don't have no secrets from him. It's like, okay, God, I messed up. I feel bad about it. I probably contemplated it before I did it. You know what I mean? Because we try to be real, we try to be how do you try to be phony with God? Like, you can't. He already knows it all. He knows that you didn't try your hardest not to fall. He knows. He knows that you was already contemplating, like, let me go ahead and get myself right. Make sure I'm cleaned up. Let me make sure I'm everything I need to be when I go to this next place. And so it's like you have to get to this place where you know that God is everything to me. He's my bestie right now. I can be honest. But knowing him to be everything doesn't mean that you get disrespectful or you treat God with disdain. It just means that you know that you can share whatever with them and that he's only got your best interest at heart. Somebody said, it's unfair. Why did this have to happen to me? Why is this the situation? Why does it have to be this way? And this is what God told me one time. Free will was given to every individual, even the person who hurt you. Free will was given to every individual, even the person that hurt you. But yet he teaches us the law of sowing and reaping. He teaches us that whatever you put out is whatever you're going to get back. I ain't got to send fire down from heaven to punish you because your situations, what you put out there is what you're going to get back. So yes, it hurts that thing happened to you. You can tell them about it. You can be angry about the person who did it to you. All that. But now you got to get to the point where you understand that God is God and he allowed their free will, but believe it or not, what they sowed, they will reap. You can tell them about it. You can tell them that you're angry. I don't know why I'm picking it up real heavy in the spirit right now, but tell them that you're angry. Tell them that you don't trust anybody. Tell them that you really don't want to, I want to be loved, but I don't want to be loved because I don't want to deal with Jack. Because that's what you want to say. You understand what I mean? I don't want to deal with them because that's how you feel about them. That's your truth. That's your truth. And so until we get to this point where we can actually be that honest with God, where we can see him as everything that we need, then we're going to always keep our little robe on instead of just being completely naked and unashamed before him.
Wow, this is a whole conference. Hey, we have the ushers. I just have like two more questions, then we can all go rethink our whole lives. Um, the first question is why, like, why is it dangerous not to unmask? Like, what happens if we don't unmask?
Well, I talked about earlier, your breathing being restricted, right? Because here's the thing, like you can put on one mask and it may only cover your eye, right? But you ever wore a mask before? You ever, especially a masquerade mask, you see how they only have the little slits? It's not like a
Yes.
full eye. You had to adjust it a million times just to be
Yeah.
able to see.
Hmm.
Well, that's one effect. You only got on one mask now, so it's obstructing your vision. You have to readjust or try to readjust everything just to be able to see clearly. So wearing a mask, it causes us to see things in a distorted way, right? When I talked about that one experience that changes your whole life, the first time a person is molested, that mask goes on. The one, because they can't tell nobody, they don't feel like they can't tell nobody. Either they've been threatened or they feel like they're embarrassed or whatever reason they don't tell, whatever reason they don't share. They got the mask on now. I can't trust nobody. Oh, I can't deal with this person. So now your vision has been distorted just because of one mask. Now imagine you're putting on another mask, same slits. How much more is your vision being distorted now? And the more masks you put on, now they're packing on top of each other. It's gonna cross over to your nose now. You're not gonna be able to breathe. And what happens if you can't breathe, Rhoda?
You
What
die.
happens if you can't breathe?
You
You
die.
die.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You die. When I first wrote this book, people asking me all the time, well, what inspired it, what caused you to write it? And a part of it was, just being transparent because again, I had been doing unmasking sessions before I ever wrote this book. But another part that caused me to really sit with it is when the news, like it was just happening so often that pastors were committing suicide and stuff. And so it caught my attention and it really, it really messed with me, you know what I mean? Because I understood, there was one pastor who had just taught about mental illness and he was teaching a series about mental illness and he was dealing with some things, but he couldn't tell the people because the people were going to judge him. How you a whole pastor and you dealing with mental illness? Well, how I'm a whole individual that speaks about healing and I'm a whole doctor and I still get diabetes? How? Because it happens. Things happen, right? And so I was reading about it and it was discouraging to me. And I just thought about the fact that people don't feel like they have a safe place, one, don't know how to be totally transparent with God. We talked about that, right? All these different things piled on top, everything piled on top, till eventually you stop being able to breathe. You cover it up, you keep covering. People who think that getting a counselor is wrong, or they've been taught that, oh, only crazy people go to the doctor or go to the psychologist or whatever. All these different things that we've been taught. Now you can't breathe. Now you can't breathe. And so one of the things that I talk and I say when I'm doing this tour, when I'm going on this book tour, and when I'm sharing with the people, that it's just time to breathe again. So even if you just start taking off the ones that's on top, at least you're starting. At least you're starting. What makes you feel the most restricted in your breathing? What thing has such a hold on your life that you literally cannot, even if God he continues to tell you over and over and over again, I'm gonna bless you, I'm gonna bless you, I'm gonna bless you, I'm about to manifest these things. You got good seed in the ground, manifestation time is coming, but when the manifestation comes, you can't even enjoy it because you're still suffocating. You've been a giver all your life. So you do see, you do a harvest. but you're still broken because of the divorce. You're still broken because of the broken friendship. You're still broken because your mother-daughter relationship didn't work out, right? You're still broken. So when the manifestation comes, you're still too broken, too mad, too angry, too hurt, too depressed, too rejected, right? To be able to really enjoy it. Everything you're scrutinizing. And so you begin to die. That's what happens when you don't take the mask off.
Wow, well, I surely don't want to die. So I'm going to begin unmasking because I'm not dying. Wow. Thank you so much for that analogy, though, of the mask and how it covers you and it suffocates you. That really makes sense. So, my last question is I know that fear and shame are two big things that can attack us from unmasking and opening up. So, is there any way we can conquer these things?
It's going to sound like I'm being, it's not going to sound like I'm being too understanding right now or compassionate or whatever when I say this, but you really just gotta get over yourself. Like you gotta get over yourself. And you gotta get to this place where you are determined, I just have to, right? A lot of fears that we have, the only way to conquer the fear is to do it afraid, right? That's what courage is. Courage is not, I don't have no fear. Courage is, I'm going to do it anyway, even when I'm shaking in my boots. But, and then the more you do it, the more you do it, you ever, the first time you go to speak in front of people, there's some people who still get nervous right now today, yet they still do it. I don't know if you know who Maxwell is, the singer, right? Maxwell, I was reading something one day and it says that he has terrible stage fright. Can you believe that? I, one of the dopest singers I've ever heard in my life, right? Pretty Wing and Us and everything, right? He's like amazing, and he has stage fright, but goes from city to city and state to state and country to country, singing on stages everywhere because he's fantastic at what he does. And yet he faces this fear every time he has to go out. And eventually, for most people, eventually, the more you face it, the more you realize that it's not as intimidating as I thought it was. And so now it's a little bit easier. It's the same thing with unmasking. Um, Find people whose spirit you try first before you go into talking, right? You know, when you have a coach or when you have your therapist or when you have a lot of people who didn't commit suicide, a lot of them didn't do it because of the person they got connected with, the counselor or whoever it was, because I felt safe enough, right? But when the love is genuine there, when the care or the concern is genuine there, it's easier to sit down and relax. Yes, you may still feel ashamed, but the more you open up in that space, in that safe space, the more you open up, the easier it gets to be able to take off more layers. Because I trust you with this part of me. I trust you with my nakedness. And that's not very easy, which is the reason why it's not meant to be for everybody. Nobody asked you to go tell the whole world. Nobody asked you to make everybody a counselor. You have to know where you can be transparent, because the truth is I'm going to feel ashamed probably when I tell you this, right? And that's true. So if you know you're going to feel some shame about it, you got to make sure that you put yourself in a place where even though I'm going to feel this shame, I know that I'm loved in this space, so I can really open myself up. But not doing it is not an option. Not doing it is not an option. My spiritual mother, man, and my mom, my biological mom. My biological mom is the one that can hug me, and even if I'm trying to be hard, like ain't nothing wrong with me, all of a sudden when she hugs me, everything pours out. And I don't know. That's what happens when she hugs me. But my spiritual mom, she says things that makes me know that no matter what state I'm in, she accepts me. That place I can be vulnerable. When I was going through real bad this year, and I, talked about my sister's death, and then the multiple times I've just been going through it, she says to me, daughter, I'm praying that you come out of this dark place. But if you never do, I still love you. How profound is that, right? Like so you find a place like that because there was a lot of shame attached to a lot of things that I've done. I had 5 whole kids out of wedlock. I've been dealing with shame my whole life, right? And I love my kids with everything, but the act of doing the thing and all the people that's looking at you and scrutinizing, I dealt with shame a lot. But when people like that in your life have determined to be the example of God in the earth for you, then shame aside, you got to be able to do it anyway. Just do it afraid.
Amen. That is so good. Thank you so much. Wow. Can you please say a prayer for all of us watching and those who watch the replay, that we'll just have the courage to begin this unmasking journey?
Amen. Hallelujah. Glory to God. Father, we thank you right now for who you are. Our first order of business is to give you glory and to reverence you, Father, to remind you, to remind ourselves, to just remind you of how holy we know you are, how much we know you love us, God. And so we just thank you now for just being all that you are. Father, I come to you today and I ask on behalf of myself and on behalf of others that you would give us the courage that we need, the strength that we need to be able to go forward, Father, that we may live. Christ said that he came that we might have life and have it more abundantly. Hallelujah. But in order for us to get to that place of abundance, we have to be able to do everything that is necessary. So give us the strength. We know at the beginning of that same verse, John 10:10, it says that the thief comes only but to steal and to kill and to destroy. And so if in masking, there's not being able to breathe, and there's death, and there's the stealing of joy, then we know that's all the enemy wants. But if life more abundantly is our portion, Father, allow us this time to be able to take inventory and to do it afraid. Give us the courage, give us the strength, and help us to know that you will never leave us nor forsake us, in everything that we need you'll put right in front of us. We declare it today that everything that they need, every resource that they need, every individual that they need, that they'll have exactly what they need to be able to get from where they are to where they want to be. We love you so very much, and we thank you for who you are to us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. So where can we follow you, contact you, do sessions with you in the new year if you're offering that?
Well, you can follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, on Periscope, and on YouTube at Inspirational Treasure, and that is without the I in the front. So you start the word off with an N, Inspirational Treasure. You can also go to my website at theinspirationaltreasure.com, and there is an I in that. That's where you can find this awesome book. If you do not have it, go grab the book. Start from there. There's so much in it that you may be able to relate to, but start with the book. You can get it on Kindle, or you can get it autographed. You can get it on paperback from Amazon. You can get it on Kindle from Amazon, or you can get it autographed from me. And if you're interested in email coaching, what I'm doing right now is email coaching mostly. And if you're interested in that, then you can email me at inspirationaltreasure@gmail.com and say, hey, I'm ready to unmask. How can you help? And then we'll give you whatever information that you need from that point.
Is that inspirational without an I at gmail.com?
Okay. Yep. The only one that has an I in it is the website.
Okay. Yay! Thank you so much. I put the links for your book below, your Instagram, your Facebook, But thank you for your email address that people can get coaching that way. Yeah, thank you so much for this
You're
session.
so welcome. Thank
Amazing.
you so much for having me, love.
Oh, God richly bless you. I appreciate it so, so much. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Make sure you share and share this video with everyone you know, and make sure that you start your process of unmasking, and may God be with you. And I'll see you again later today. Bye, Treasure. Thank you.
Bye bye, love.